So is this the camera here, Steve? So I can look at the camera? I love it. I love it. I love it. Here we go. Here we go. So this is me on the air now here, huh?
WDAO AM 1210 and the FM 102.3. Good morning to you. It's time now for Health is Wealth Talk Show. Health is Wealth is brought to you by Natural Foods Plus and the Juice Caboose with 2 locations, 2901 Philadelphia Drive and 3070 Far Hills Avenue. Natural Foods Plus is more than a health food store. It's the home of the Juice Caboose. Health is Wealth is heard beginning at 9 a.m. each Tuesday morning. The views and opinions heard on Health is Wealth Talk Show are those of the callers and hosts and not necessarily of those of WBAO Radio, its staff, or management. And now, here he is, the host of Health is Wealth Talk Show, the better than good Rick Poole. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Michael.
How you doing,
I'm
sir?
doing better than good. I want to say good morning to the listening audience out there, and also the looking in audience this morning, because we are streaming live on Facebook. We're going to another level here, and so I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to the listeners out there, and yes, when you support Natural Foods Plus, then you support this type of programming. Natural Foods Plus, 2901 Philadelphia, the corner of Philadelphia and Siebenthaler, and also 3070 Far Hills in Kettering. 2 locations serving you. The original location been there 26 years, and the Kettering location, we just been there approximately 2 years going on. This is the 3rd year. And again, when you support Natural Foods Plus, then you support this type of programming. Oh, man. Open 7 days a week, Mondays through Fridays, 8 to 8, Saturdays, 9 to 7. The Kettering store is closed on Sundays, but the original store is open from 11 to 5 on Sunday. You know, what we do here on Health is Wealth, before I go into the disclaimer, man, there's so much that I want to cover this morning, so please bear with me. Also, please call your friends, call your relatives, call your neighbors, and let them know that this is the first Tuesday of the month, and so we have Dr. Max MacCloud that will be joining us. Dr. Max, a DO, a naturopath doctor, who also has a PhD in nutrition. What we do here on Health is Wealth is we discuss what I like to call natural, alternative, complementary approaches to health. And of course, we do it with truth and honesty. Just like to let you know that I'm not a doctor and that these are my opinions and beliefs. And they basically have been formed from me reading, from me studying, from me living this natural approach to health. And so what I try to do here, I try to bring you some facts, figures, and opinions from some of the leading national healthcare practitioners. And I ask you to use good sense. Mama Whitlow says, use good sense, young man, not common sense, because what's common to one may not be common to the other. And man, when we think about what's happening today, we're being lied to, played on, and hoodwinked today. And so it is very, very important that you stop, you be still, and that you question. As Deepak Chopra says, it is only through questioning that we can break this hypnosis of social conditioning. And Lord knows we're being programmed and conditioned on so many different fronts. And so 2 things I want you to do: be still, question, and then ask for direction. And man, it will happen. What we do here also, we discuss what I like to call mental, spiritual, social, and what's very, very important is emotional health. Emotional health is the foundation, I think, to success. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that, and also share the emotion code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. Very, very, very important. And so I'm gonna cut this short. My disclaimer, basically, letting you know that I'm not a doctor and that these are my opinions and beliefs. And my mission and purpose is to be non-judgmental. I try not to criticize. I try to provide information and knowledge that, if used correctly, will not only add value to your life but also to your loved ones. So very, 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 very important. And finally, I'd just like to say the information provided is intended to educate you, the listener, about certain medical and social conditions, and always, always, we're going to talk about certain solutions to those. It is not a substitute for examination and medical care provided by a licensed and qualified health professional. If you believe you, your family, or someone you know may suffer from what we may discuss on this program, please see your healthcare provider. That was kind of heavy with that, man. Do not attempt to treat yourself, your child, your family, anyone else without proper medical supervision. That's my disclaimer that I like to open with. And again, at 9:30 this morning, we're bringing on Dr. Max MacCloud. So please call call your friends, call your relatives, call your neighbors, and let them know it's going to be a powerful, powerful show. Have a few announcements. World Wide Web, you're tuning in, and we're located here in Dayton, Ohio, very unique community. I'm blessed and thankful that the majority of us Black Americans are still on the west side. We're still Dayton, West Dayton, Jefferson Township, and Trotwood, predominantly Black. So we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to control our economics, to control our community. And so we're going to make that happen. Man, I want to give condolences to a couple families. This gentleman, I didn't even know passed, George Roebuck Jr. Man, he was a indirect mentor of mine. He was in music, unbelievable individual, a gentleman, and I want to give condolences to him, to his family and loved ones. I didn't know that. And then another friend of mine that passed that I did not know, but a lot in the community knew both of these individuals. Brother Roebuck was very active in politics and also as a music producer. And then the other one is James, Bobby Martin James. Bobby James went to Dunbar, was a track athlete, and man, we grew up in the same neighborhood. There may be some old timers still out there that remember Crook Street. Crook Street is where C.J. McLean's funeral home was, and Bobby and I, we grew up together there. And then before I moved from there out into Jefferson Township. But again, I want to give my condolences to the James family, who I was very close with, and also to the Roebuck family. I want to remind you all that when you come to Natural Foods Plus, either location, and you come into the store and you see a rainbow, you follow that rainbow, and that's where you will find healing and rejuvenation. At the juice bar, we have whole food, real food, cellular supplements that goes down to the cellular level. I've been talking about this for the last 15 or 20 years. And so the things that we're going to get in today is really going to reestablish the fact in terms of the importance of real food. And, we had, Michael, if you would, I would like for you to cue up, last week we had the Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan. And I'm going to play a little segment of his genocide by diet. And again, the Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan, you can go to, and I highly recommend that you go to the ministerofwellness.com. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Michael, we're going to go to approximately 22:30, around there, 22:25, and this is about a 3-minute segment from the minister that I want to share. But this was a speech given in 2018. In 2018, he gave this, and this is just a little segment that basically talks about. He's sharing the importance of knowing the difference about macronutrients and micronutrients, which is so very, very, very important to understand. And so we're going to hear a little bit about that. And I think it's an excellent lead in for what I want to share with you. And then it's an excellent lead in for what Dr. Max MacCloud this morning with My Body Symphony is going to share. So, Michael, if that's ready to cue, let's go into the Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan. This is a speech given in 2018, if you would, Michael.
Science that I'm about to bring out. Feel free to go to fast food genocide. There's like 700 scientific studies in there.
Is that 22?
Never be convinced.
22, 20.
20?
20.
22:20? Okay. Bear with us.
Fast food genocide. There's like 700 scientific studies.
Bear with us, and as we go there, I also this past, one of the my mentors who I follow and has been doing it for quite a while is Dr. Joseph McCullough. You can go to McCullough.com. I've shared this information numerous of times, and this past Sunday, there is an interview that he has with Dr. Robert Lustig, and Dr. Lustig has a book out, and he is a professor at the University of California, and also he's a pediatric MD, and he has a book out, his latest, called Metabolical: The Lure and the Lies of Processed Food, Nutrition, and Modern Medicine. And so it reinforces what the minister. So, Michael, if you're ready, you can go ahead and start that.
From accepting the bulletproof science that I'm about to bring out. Feel free to go to fast food genocide. There's like 700 scientific studies in there. Okay, but some people will never be convinced because they don't want to give up their favorite Franken foods. Again, you cannot hate the taste of green vegetables and be addicted to dairy ice cream and really become an advocate for the overhaul of the diet that we need to effect the change that we need. Does that make sense? So we are what we eat. If we want to prevent and reverse all disease, we must eat a diet high in micronutrients in comparison to the calories that we consume. Real food is supposed to give us two things. This is very important. Macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients, that's protein, carbohydrates, and fat. That's where we get our calories. Okay, anything we consume that has calories, those calories come from those three sources. You all follow? Now, real food is also supposed to give us micronutrients. Micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. Now, we're eating a diet that is completely devoid of micronutrients. And that's a problem because those are our medicines. Those are our medicines. The micronutrients is what you want to focus on. The dieting industry, which is a hoax, they own the calories. High carb, low carb, high fat, low fat. They are just juggling calories. And so because you never focus on the micronutrients, you stay in a state of starvation. And eventually, as many of you all can attest to, you'll stay on that vicious cycle of your weight up and down. So we want to focus on micronutrients. Our health is dependent not on juggling macronutrients, but on the amount of micronutrients we consume. So don't worry about the quantity of protein. Worry about the quality. So instead of trying to get your protein from a diseased animal, you'd rather get a high quality of protein from grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. You're all following. The same thing with carbohydrates. Okay, there's nothing wrong with sugar, but you don't want to get your sugar obviously from candy and sodas and so forth. You want to get your sugar from fresh fruit. And then the same with fat. Instead of dairy and yes, even oils, you want to get your fat from the whole food source like nuts and seeds. We are not letting food be our medicine and medicine be our food. We're not doing it. We're eating these foods, cranking foods, designed for the purpose of making you happy. Cookies and crackers and chips and breakfast bars and donuts and pancakes and waffles and breakfast cereals and lunches and lunch meats and deli meats and all of that other garbage. Okay, and these foods is no better than illicit drugs. And here's the sad thing. Most of these Franken foods could be made healthfully. You can have healthy cookies and crackers and cakes from whole natural plant ingredients. So why don't they do it? Why won't they just give you the whole food source? Why give you the Franken foods? Because when you take a plant and strip it of all of its nutrients, it turns it into a psychological drug. So they don't want you to have the whole food source. They want you to be an addict to Franken foods because they want you to get sick so you can get on them toxic cancer-causing medications.
The Minister of Wellness. The Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan. And article in one Dr. Joseph McCullough interviewing Dr. Robert Lustig, a professor at the University of California, San Francisco, has just written a book. And the title of this is Food as Medicine, the Answer to Mounting Health Crisis. Big Pharma got its start in 1910 when John D. Rockefeller, president of the Standard Oil, wanted to get coal tar into the hands of doctors who could prescribe it for a range of different issues. When you fast forward it today, Big Pharma is still coming up empty-handed for fixing the source of chronic disease. The minister talks about they, and this is why I ask you to be still and to question. We learn from history. Who is they? Who started the AMA? Who were the robber barons in the late 1800s and the 1900s? They were the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Carnegies. They systematically designed a marketing campaign to eliminate naturopaths. For 10 years, they designed a marketing campaign to discredit chiropractor. Look what's happening today. I'm asking you to be still and to question. Story at a glance. While modern medicine successfully treats acute problems, it has nothing to offer for chronic conditions. as the solution for chronic health problems requires real food. What did the minister say? We need real food. What have I been saying for the 20 years? If you come to Natural Foods Plus and you go to the juice bar, you're going to get real food, real whole food, cellular supplements that goes down to the cellular level. Supplements that no other health food store in the state of Ohio and a lot of in the Midwest don't even have. Humic and Forbic, the gift. E3 Live, Brain On. Wheatgrass. And of course, we have our Natural Foods Super Tonic. And quite a few others. And then the most popular is our Emerald Treasure. The super smoothie. Alfalfa, wheatgrass, spirulina, flaxseed oil, a banana. It has real food. And it's so interesting the number of comments that we get today. And even Michael says, man, I never knew. I never knew. Real food is medicine. What did the minister say? Real food is medicine. Processed food is poison. And there's no medicine that can undo the damage of processed food. They know this. They are influencing. When you turn on that TV, that's all you see is drugs and fast food, processed food. Real food is medicine. Processed food is poison. And there's no medicine that can undo the damage of processed food. It's killing us. 2 points in the article that it makes about health, about the medical establishment, which doesn't want to admit drugs cannot treat foundational causes of disease. And the food industry doesn't want you to know that processed foods are inherently unhealthy. Stop, be still, listen, look. The minister mentions it. You name the condition, we as blacks are at the other end of the totem pole. We are killing ourselves. To improve public health, we need education about the core problem. The overabundance of processed food in our diet, plus the implementation of healthier eating, both on a personal level and a societal level, which will require societal intervention in the form of legislation or litigation. If we do not step up and become responsible, man, it's what they're doing to us. It's what we're doing ourselves. And so, you know, there's a movement going on. I was so pleased to find about the Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan. He's on a mission, and I'm on the mission with him. Food companies can make money selling real food. The primary hindrance is the subsidizing of junk food ingredients, sugar, corn, wheat, soy. I'm again reading a story at a glance, substantiating everything that the minister was talking about in 2018. We're getting close to the bottom of the hour, and there's a couple of things I want to share. As always, I want to share, first of all, you know, some of my resources. This one resource is the Healing is Voltage, the handbook by Dr. Jerry Tennant. You really, this is a foundation. Dr. Jerry Tennant, an ophthalmologist, one of the leading ophthalmologists in the country. He was the first doctor to intraocular lenses and also LASIKs. He got encephalitis, which was viruses on the brain. For 7 years, he was sick, and now he has a whole new protocol that's changing the paradigm of conventional medicine. And so again, Healing is Voltage by Dr. Jerry Tennant. That's a mentor. The book was so powerful in 2011. There was a customer that came in that was sharing we was challenging each other, and she says, "Hey, would you like to read a book?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She brought that book in, and I read it, and it was so powerful. I flew down, became a patient of Dr. Tennant, and the protocol that he's using is unbelievable in terms of treating conventional chronic metabolic issues. It's a whole new protocol. Another book that I want to share is The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. Your emotions, is your foundation. And so The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. When I tell you I feel good, not only do I feel good physically, but it's important to feel good emotionally. And the last book I want to share is, please, young millennial, is called Brainwash by Tom Burrell. Brainwash by Tom Burrell. We're going to take a short pause for the cause, and when we return, call your friends, call your relatives, call your neighbors, and let them know that we have Dr. Max MacCloud that will be joining us, a DO, a naturopath doctor, and a PhD in nutrition. Michael.
Thanks, sir. This is WDAO, AM 1210 and FM 102.3. We're going to take a short pause for a news minute from the Associated Press, and then more of Health as well. Stay with us, will you?
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. Parts of the Deep South are going to see severe weather again today after tornadoes rolled through parts of the region Sunday night and Monday. National Weather Service meteorologist Mike Edmonston is in Mississippi.
Much of Mississippi and Alabama be the focus right now for it. With Tennessee, Georgia, all the way back into East Texas, still being under a threat, but not as great as the focus for Mississippi and Alabama.
Meteorologist Mike Edmonston. The AP's Julie Walker.
He says expect up to 5 inches of rain in some parts, flash flooding, and hail the size of golf balls. He says that triple threat will make it worse than Sunday, and so far they've confirmed 8 tornadoes from that day. I'm Julie Walker.
23 dead, dozens injured after a Mexico City subway overpass collapsed, sending a train car plunging toward a busy street. The mayor says there may still be people trapped in the wreckage. I'm Rita Foley.
You are listening to Health is Wealth Talk Show with your host, Rick Poole, sponsored by Natural Foods Plus and Nerd each Tuesday at 9 a.m. The news and the business stories on Health is Wealth Talk Show are those of the callers and hosts, and not necessarily of those of WDAO Radio, its staff, or management. And now, Health is Wealth Talk Show.
Is Dr. Max on? Thank you, Michael. I can't say enough for the support that you all have given us at Natural Foods Plus, because when you support us at Natural Foods Plus, then we're able to come here and support the family, and then we're able to disseminate a different perspective about health. And man, Natural Foods Plus, 2901 Philadelphia, and also 3070 Far Hills, 937-279-0994. That's the north location, and 937-951-2966. That's the south location. I'm waiting for Dr. Max MacCloud to call in. He'll be calling in from Sarasota, Florida. Before I go there, I shared a book. The last book that I've shared it before, is Brainwashed by Tom Burrell. This book, Tom Burrell was one of the leading advertisers in the 70s and the 80s. his company. But this was in 2009. And the same thing that the minister, and also to follow up with the food as medicine. In chapter 6 of Brainwash, Tom Burrell asked, he says, why do we neglect our body, our mind, and our spirit? And he talks about the fact of slow suicide. And he said, let's consider the data. And the minister talks about this in terms of, you name the condition, and we as blacks are at the other end. Cardiovascular disease ranks as the #1 killer of African Americans, claiming the lives of over 37% of more than 285,000 blacks who die each year. This is in 2009. Strokes. African American adults are 1.7 times more likely to have strokes than their white adult counterparts. Further, black men are 60% more likely to die from a stroke than a white male. In 2009, among African Americans, it was reported that an estimated 150,000 new cases of invasive cancers would be diagnosed, and about 64,000 blacks would die from cancer-related deaths. This is in 2009. Diabetes. African Americans are 1.6 times more likely to have diabetes than whites. And it goes on. Americans are non-Latino Americans are more than twice as likely to suffer its most debilitating consequences. And about 2.7 million blacks, 11.4% over 20, have the disease. Black women are 40% more likely to die of breast cancer. And it goes on in terms of HIV, AIDS, obesity, depression. And these statistical data is also substantiated by the Minister of Wellness. We have Dr. Max on the air. Oh, thank you. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Rick.
Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. Dr. Max, Doctor, a PhD in nutrition, is streaming live also on Facebook today, and also coming live from Sarasota, Florida. You all may not know, but we are the only health food store in the state of Ohio that has Dr. Max MacCloud, his nutritional whole food supplement line. And again, we talk about, and you listen to the article that I just read about food as medicine, and we talk about real food, and then you've heard the minister talk about the importance of real food. And so what I have in my hand here is Peak Performance plant-based protein, and on it, it talks about real food. I'm telling you, the key is real food and getting rid of that processed food. Doc, I'm going to turn it over to you. We got a wonderful program planned. What I would like to do for the listeners that may not know, the doc has given monologues about the current situation, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. And when I say about the current situation, I'm speaking about what we're experiencing. It's amazing in terms of the manipulation, the influence, the lies, how we've been lied to, played on, and hoodwinking every day. And so, Doc, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm really interested to hear what your monologue is for today, whether or not, and we'll go from there. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about some issues. We're going to talk about his real food supplement line. And we're also going to talk a little bit about, if you would like to call in, 937-457-1210. Doc, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to be still and then be be quiet and listen for a few.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rick. But before I get started, I just want to say that I totally agree with everything that's been said so far. And I saw you talked about Jerry Tennant and voltage, healing his voltage. Just to show you, I'm a follower as well. This is his biomodulator. Great stuff. And of course, the emotion code now is expanded to the body code. We have a practitioner we work with to help people with those issues. So I'm going to start out with, as we discussed the last few shows, kind of an intro that encapsulates a lot of what's going on and my take on it. Quick warning here. I'm no poet, so any resemblance to poetry is purely coincidental. So here we go. The powers that be, whoever they might be, have continued their ruse to confuse. The use of distraction is a powerful tool, perhaps the most powerful tool they could use. Diversion and distraction have given them huge traction to expand their ruse to confuse. Could they have used the corrupt orange disaster to precipitate the current disaster? In hindsight, it begins to make sense. Reality TV is proven to captivate with suspense. Their plan is brilliant, but why? What are they really after? Is it as simple as making trillions by vaccinating the masses? Or is it instead about complete control and domination of those masses? Could it be some other goal? A cover-up, perhaps. What could they possibly be covering up? Something even bigger than a COVID relapse? The biggest, most profitable scam on the planet, that's what it would have to be. So the powers that be, whoever they might be, may actually be covering up the big G. So what is the big G? Clearly, there's no bigger G than the massive rollout of 5G. Huge benefits to society, they say. The Internet of Things, they say. Self-driving cars and refrigerators that tell you when to and what to buy. Is that what's behind it all? I can't speak for you, but I don't need a self-driving car. And I know when and what to buy. No, it has to be something more than simple profit on a technology that no one really needs. It has to do with power and control. The Great Reset is all about power and control. The entire thing is a scam, simply a tool to create fear, a tool to gain more power and control. Wake up and realize that at least 90% of everything you're being told is a lie, a diversion, and a distraction. Trump was a distraction, a 4-year distraction from logic, reason, the rule of law, and sanity. It continued with the election fraud distraction and the Capitol insurrection distraction and on and on. Now there's the continued distractions from the real deep state or social media, or should I say the foreign actors that have been manipulating the American public via social media for several years. I know these trolls are all about blaming the Chinese, but truth be told, Putin's likely behind it. COVID is a distraction, a 12-month and counting distraction. I predict they will continue to soak it for another 12 to 24 minutes until they unleash the next big distraction, crafted to strike fear in the hearts of the masses. Masks are a distraction, just another way to divide us, making people think they even have a role in all of this drama. Of course, there's no sound scientific evidence to support the use of masks. Certainly not for an airborne virus that's 100 times smaller than the mask's filtration threshold. Now, a bandana or piece of cloth, that's just a whole nother level of stupid. Is it just their way of taunting the masses while testing to see just how gullible and compliant they be? Social distancing is yet another distraction, also with zero scientific basis, but they don't care. The powers that be, whoever they might be, revel in and get a kick out of seeing what lies and tricks the masses will buy. Politics is a distraction, one that's been used for centuries. Elections, allegations of fraud, insurrection, impeachment, the obvious lack of integrity and partisan denial of what is clear to any third grader, and all denials above all part of the reality TV drama that has been crafted to distract us. Political distractions will never end until we realize that politics itself is a distraction. No politician is above it. No one is omnipotent and all-knowing. They're all beholden to a plethora of special interests that influence their thoughts and actions. Demonizing them is not the answer. Educating them and holding them accountable is. We, the people, must take back our rightful place in our own government. That's the only way to make elected and appointed officials accountable. Remember, it's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And sadly, we, the people, dropped the ball. Labels are a distraction. Rhetoric is a distraction. Blindly following an ideology is just part of being dumbed down. It's about destroying the capacity for critical thinking. After all, it's so much easier to follow than to think for oneself. Stop and think about that the next time you accept and condone some absurd and illogical pronouncement by some self-appointed drone. They've been working overtime to divide us, to pit one against the other. That is the purpose of all this drama. If you don't believe me, maybe you might ask your mama. Ultimately, this may be the big one, where they drive the final nail in the coffin of our freedom. Or it may just be a big one, a wake-up call from which we might yet recover. That is, unless you take the jab, if you know what I mean. The jab they're trying to force on everyone without proper testing or proof of safety. The jab that delivers a so-called vaccine that is not a vaccine at all. If there is no isolated virus, there can be no test for that virus. If there is no test that can identify the virus, any death or case attributed to it is pure speculation. If there is no isolated virus, there can be no variants of that virus. If there is no isolated virus, there can be no identifiable antibodies to the virus. If there are no identifiable antibodies, there can be no vaccine. An experimental biological weapon that targets and turns one's immune system into a manufacturing plant that cranks out coronavirus spike proteins is not a vaccine. It's a biological weapon that activates and dysregulates the immune system to attack spike proteins that have a limited RNA sequence that is common to over 500 different coronaviruses. And by the way, coronaviruses account for over 25% of the common cold. That same sequence also occurs elsewhere, which means even more opportunity for dysregulation or an overactivation of the immune system of those getting the jab. The latest, perhaps even more distressing news is that those who have gotten the jab appear to be shedding and transmitting the bioweapon to others who have not gotten the jab. There are hundreds of documented reports linking casual contact between jabbies and jabbies and non-jabbies, with adverse reactions to the non-jabbies, mostly involving altered female reproduction cycles, miscarriages, and sterility. What a potential diabolically plan to commit genocide and thereby radically thin the herd and depopulate the planet. Ask yourself, because you do have a choice, will I comply? Should I be forced to comply? Can they make me comply? Or did they poke the bear? Have they pushed us too far? Have they pushed enough buttons to trigger us to reclaim our freedom? That was a trick question. There is no our freedom. There's only individual freedom. The freedom of the collective can only derive from the freedom of the individual. Free and sovereign individuals can then band together as we the people to reclaim our once free and sovereign nation. Either way, my friends, this has been a huge distraction. Big enough to cover up the aggressive rapid rollout of 5G. Big enough to introduce a new era of ineffective, unsafe, and fake vaccines. Vaccines that will be and are being thrust upon the masses. Once again, in case you missed it, these vaccines do not even fit the definition of a vaccine. Know this if nothing else. Either one, 5G or vaccines, has the potential to wipe out or significantly cull much of the human race. There, I said it again, population control. They, the powers that be, whoever they might be, have been preparing this for decades. Anyway, I slice it, my friends. I search for the source of this ruse to confuse. I keep coming back to vaccines and 5G. And that is, from everything I can tell, what this is really all about.
Listeners out there, and also the viewers out there, you're tuning in to Health is Wealth, and we're going to another level. Every Tuesday, Natural Foods Plus and the Juice Caboose brings you Health is Wealth, and the first Tuesday of every month, we have Dr. Max MacCloud, a DO, a naturopath doctor, a PhD in nutrition, that joins us from Sarasota, Florida. And he has just given his monologue in terms of his opinion. He's a research junkie. He's my third eye from the standpoint of of research. And Doc, and listeners out there, 937-457-1210. If you have any questions or comments, that monologue was it was so powerful, and there were certain little things that I want to come back when you mentioned, and again, our listeners out there, 937-457-1210. We're not about trying to convince you to take not to take the vaccination. We're not trying to tell you to in terms of the mask. The docs, and my mission and purpose is to really try to educate and to inform. And then we are not dumb, stupid, or ignorant. If you be still and if you question, as Deepak Chopra says, it is only through questioning that we can break this hypnosis of social conditioning. And so, Doc, you talk about distractions, and one of those distractions you said was a mask, and you said the virus is 100 times smaller than the pores of the mask. So basically, and I've seen videos where they've been one mask and two masks, and then they inhale a aerosol, and they breathe out, and it comes straight to the mask. And so basically what you're saying is what, just to understand in terms of the mask cannot, research has shown that it does not prevent the virus from coming through if one does have it. Is that
correct? All it will do is collect and or divert some of the respiratory droplets that we might cough or sneeze out. And of course, most people have learned not to cough and sneeze without covering up, since they were maybe 5 years old or younger. So they're basically saying, okay, you people are all fools. You don't know how to cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze, because there's absolutely no data prior to the last year that shows any benefit whatsoever of wearing masks as protection from an airborne virus. There are a couple of things that have come out since then that are clearly biased, and the experimental design is just ridiculous, just to try to give them some support, because even the CDC sites and the WHO sites had data on there showing that masks are ineffective. I think they've probably taken some of that down and thrown up some of these fake studies or poorly designed studies to help make their point and support them, because obviously they're all on board with it. Even Fauci originally was doesn't know real reason for it, but then he was convinced, and later on, is toeing the line. Of course, we probably don't want to get into how unreliable that person is in terms of their science and motivations. So yes, the masks are absurd, and then of course a lot of places like, okay, well, you can just put a bandana or a piece of cloth or whatever. It's ridiculous, and they're just taunting us, because the bottom line is that the mask does nothing, the bandana does next to nothing. Again, if you're trying to prevent some dust particles from entering, great, but that's not what they're for.
I don't watch anymore, but last evening, usually before the show, I would turn on the TV and says, okay, what's the latest, and trying to get updated. And man, I saw a high school athlete. She was running the state half mile, and they were forcing her to wear a mask, and she actually fainted at the end because of lack of oxygen. Can you expound upon that in terms of the need of oxygen, the body, and what it's doing?
Absolutely. Well, there's a balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide that's supposed to be in our bodies and in our blood. And anything that interferes with the intake of oxygen or interferes with the expulsion of carbon dioxide can create an imbalance, which ultimately affects the pH of our blood. as well as the oxygen delivery, to our cells. And of course, our cells need oxygen to produce energy inside the mitochondria, which is the only efficient way we have to produce energy. Now, we can also produce energy through glycolysis, but the example would be if you were driving a car that got 38 miles to a gallon versus a car that has 2 miles to a gallon, which would you prefer to drive? Most people would go for the 38 miles a gallon. Well, when the mitochondria have oxygen, that's what they will produce. 38 ATPs for a given unit of input versus the cell. When there's not enough oxygen to run the mitochondria, then the cell can make that energy through glycolysis or breaking down sugars for the most part. And that will produce 2 ATPs per unit of input. So it's extremely inefficient. So you've got an athlete out there working at a high intensity level, and you're restricting the airflow and therefore the oxygen. It's insanity. It's absolutely insane. And making kids sit all day in schoolrooms with masks on, that's not just insanity, that's criminal. And people need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
No isolated virus. Can you expound upon that in your monologue?
Okay. So
the supposed novel coronavirus, which they've been expecting for decades, has not been isolated. Now, they have identified a sequence, but that's after mixing in several different animal cells into the culture and then isolating. You can't add something and then isolate and say that you've isolated. You have to take the pure substance and isolate that so you can get a sequence. So that it has not been sequenced, and this is confirmed by multiple Freedom of Information Act requests, that no one has that data. It's not there. And then the interesting thing about the antibodies was spilled by the head of the Bulgarian Pathology Association several months ago, and he was on a conference call, a Zoom type thing with a bunch of his peers. It wasn't a public thing at all. It was just they were talking. He said, "Hey, we and the Bulgarian Pathology Associations, they're top of the line." Anyway, he was talking, saying that we haven't isolated the antibodies, and we've checked with virtually every other national lab in Europe, and no one has isolated the antibodies. So this is all a fabrication. And initially, I could say that maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was just a comedy of errors. And I'll give you the real quick rundown on how that could be. So there was something going on in Wuhan, right? A doctor noticed 3 unusual cases of viral pneumonia. They get around 68 to 80,000 cases of viral pneumonia a year, but this doctor noticed 3 that were unusual. Why? Because they weren't really viral pneumonia. I'll tell you what they were in a minute. However, what that did was it alerted the national government and then their CDC to send in some investigators. Well, who do you send in? It's not the Ghostbusters. You send in the pathology people, and they're almost always headed up by virologists. Why? Because there's too many virologists out there, so they get in these positions. So the virologists go in, and they're looking for something that's causing an epidemic. Well, what are they going to look for? They're going to look for a virus. What are they going to find? Well, whether they find it or not, they're going to say that they found a virus. So they think that was a virus because the virologist's looking for a virus. And so after that, the World Health Organization goes in and they concur. Yes, it appears to be a virus. And from then on, no one is going to contradict that it's a virus. Again, it's just it could have just been a comedy of errors, or it was set up to take them down that path.
Well, listeners out there, you're tuning in to Health is Wealth.
Rick Poole and Natural Foods Plus every Tuesday at 9. Natural Foods Plus and the Juice Caboose brings you Health is Wealth. And the first Tuesday of every month, we have Dr. Max MacCloud that calls in from Sarasota, Florida. He's a DO. He's a naturopath doctor. He has a PhD in nutrition. And we're going to go to 10:30 this morning. And when we come back from the break, Man, we're going to really get into his My Body Symphony nutritional line. And I know we have a caller on the line, so caller, please remain with us. When we come out of break, we'll go to your, we'll go directly to you. And again, please stay tuned. Call your relatives, call your friends, call your neighbors. Let them know that Dr. Max MacCloud and Health is Wealth is on. And we're going to take a short pause for the cause, and we'll be right back.
The real rhythm of the city, WDAO Dayton.
This is 8 News. I'm Rita Falk. It may well be an ugly day in much of the Deep South. More severe
What
weather is
Facebook are
closing
you
in on
on?
them, even as they clean up from tornadoes
Poole?
that hit Sunday night and Monday.
National Weather Service.
What Facebook are we on?
Not the Food Plus. Oh, okay.
Alabama, Tennessee, corners of Arkansas, and
Do we have, I know we have, we eventually going to do both. I know I'm going to let you go ahead and do your.
Right.
There is also heavy rain threat.
he says expect up to 5 inches.
On Health is Well Talk Show, are those of the callers and hosts, and not necessarily of those of WDAO Radio. It's their full name. And now, Health is Well Talk Show with host Rick Poole.
Thank you, Michael, and also thank you, listeners out there. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for supporting Natural Foods Plus the Juice Caboose. Natural Foods Plus the Juice Caboose, 2 locations, 2901 Philadelphia, the corner of Philadelphia and Siebenthaler, open 7 days a week, Mondays through Fridays, 8 to 8, Saturdays 9 to 7, and Sundays 11 to 5. Our South location is Monday through Fridays, 8 to 8, Saturdays, 9 to 7, and closed on Sundays. Man, when you support Natural Foods Plus, then you support this type of programming. The first Tuesday of every month, we have Dr. Max MacCloud that joins us from Sarasota, Florida, and he's calling in this morning. But before we go there, I wanted to mention we have a man at the South location, 3070 Far Hills, every Saturday. This past Saturday was excellent. I mean, we had quite a few people that came out from 2 to 4 o'clock. We have vitamin injections to boost your immune system. And see, that's the key. That's the key. We have to boost the immune system. You know, the other things that if we talk about, you know, we can discuss and talk about masks, we can talk about vaccines, and we can talk about that. But if you don't have a strong immune system, that's the key. You know, wake up. Common sense, good sense tells us that, hey, I got to have a good immune system. And so that's why if you go to either the health food stores, either one, and you go to the juice bar, that's where healing and rejuvenation begins, because we have whole food cellular supplements that's going to boost the immune system. So on Saturday at the South location, you can come in now and you can get from 2 to 4. We have Ingenious Health and Wellness, a company that we have collaborated with to provide injectable vitamins. And man, I'm telling you, it's another way to boost the immune system. You know, also what I want to share before I go back to the doctor, you know, because I know you're questioning, and you're probably questioning what the doc is saying, and I just want to share. Earlier, I talked about an article from Dr. McCullough that I follow, and on Sunday he had an interview with Dr. Robert Lustig, and Dr. Robert Lustig has written a book called Metabolical: The Lure and the Lies of Processed Food, Nutrition, and Modern Medicine. And he has a segment on this. He talks about the history of medicine. And in his book, Lustig does an excellent job of presenting the history of our food and medical systems and the various pressures that lead us down the path to where we are today. So, you know, I want you to listen. I mean, you know, if you listen to the doc, if you listen to the Minister of Wellness, we always talk about they. Who are they? Who started the AMA? For example, he says a significant part of why medical doctors are so clueless about health today is because Big Pharma was placed in charge of their education. And this is real. The drug industry, in turn, was a distinct profit-making scheme from its inception. And the inception goes back 100 years ago. And then he also talks about the Flexner Report. In 1910, Abraham Flexner, an educator, wrote the Flexner Report. This was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, the robber barons. And so what we fast forward today, what's happening today are the robber barons. They're called the digeratis. They're censoring information. So when you ask yourself, how is the whole world being influenced? Well, they control. They control everything. They control Facebook, Google, YouTube. The minister has been taken off of YouTube. You name it, they control it. And so, you know, when you just think about that. Just think about that. So we're with Dr. Max MacCloud, and we got a couple callers. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Rick. Good day to you, Michael and Dr. Max. Yeah, I wanted to know if you or Dr. Max know anything about sarcoidosis. That's what I've been diagnosed with, and I'm going to be taking medication that's suppressing my immune system. I just wanted to know, I wanted to try the natural path first before I start taking medicine from Big Pharma. So what are your advice on that? Do you know anything about disease itself.
Doc?
Just hang up and listen. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you.
So I couldn't catch everything. What was the condition he's?
Sarcoidosis. He's experiencing sarcoidosis, and he wanted to know whether or not there's a natural approach to sarcoidosis before venturing down the road of taking drugs and medication that's going to deplete his immune system and so forth.
One of the approaches to any condition, because the key is to think about it in terms of, from a naturopathic perspective, you're not treating a condition, you're treating the patient, you're treating the person that has been diagnosed with a condition. So it still goes back to the foundation is you have to support the person's health and figure out what things were interfering with their health and their metabolism that allowed for any disease condition to take hold. So yes, there are a lot of things that can be done, and it's starting with the basics. Good whole food, making sure you're digesting that food, making sure that you're getting in proper amounts of oxygen, and that means opening up the microcirculation. Everyone's microcirculation over time shuts down, not shuts, but scrunches down quite a bit, and that happens in the capillaries, the tiny capillaries, which account for 99% of the circulatory system. So if someone's capillaries should be like this, and now they're like that, it's gonna alter the nutrient delivery and the removal of waste products. So that's something that needs to be addressed, and that's where exercise with oxygen therapy is so effective. It's the only thing documented that can open and reset those capillaries. So proper nutrition, that includes water, air, sunlight, proper exercise activity. What can you do, or what needs to be done to get that person's body functioning properly, get all the cells functioning properly? And that will address 90% of all conditions out there. And then once you get to that point, then you can be specific about the condition. First, you have to build health from the foundation up.
Again, call us out there, 937-457-1210. And, you know, there's a couple naturopath doctors. There's one here that's in Dayton, Dr.
Edwards, Hippocrates Health Institute. There's some institutes that you can research and find more. And but as the doctor said, the foundation, man, is to build the foundation first. And so that's really what we want to go in now. Doc, I want to go into, you know, I bought some products that is building the foundation, you know, that I use every day. And I want you to, and you're there, and maybe you can actually take some products and bring them and show them. I bought, you know, the importance of a protein. Every day I take Peak Performance plant-based protein, and on the packet here, it talks about the fact that it contains real food, protein plus 11 vital nutrients missing from plants. You know, what would you like to share with the listening and the viewing audience this morning about some of your products that this morning I've used? That Remedy. I've also had a tablespoon of liposomal vitamin C. I put also in my green goddess this morning. I had liposomal vitamin C. I put the zinc, and then I used the Remedy. I took a very small, less than a quarter, and put it in my ears to clearing the viral infections, and up my nose for viral infections. Expound upon that. Those are some of the things that I do with My Body Symphony. Would you expound more?
Sure. So, you know,
Back to what we talked about earlier is whether there's a virus or not, it's important to strengthen and maintain the functional efficiency of your immune system. And the most important thing there is good nutrition, which is one of the reasons that everything that's going on is kind of nonsense, because they haven't done a thing to help educate people about what they need to do to maintain their immune system. So what we do is we have a number of products. And we kind of take it from the ground up in terms of how do you support the immune system. And as you already talked about, peak performance plant protein is a foundational thing, because our cells, all of our cellular machinery and parts are a function of protein. So we need to get adequate protein, digest it, and then our body uses that to build new tissue, including immune system function. Of course, healthy fats are also vital. So we won't go into fats right now, but the fats are important to make up your cell membranes, act as uses raw materials to make hormones, enzymes, and antibodies. So there's lots of functions for that as well. And then we've got a whole little series here. We call it the immune support kit. And this is the travel size. We also have full sizes of everything, but this way it'll let me go through the different products and give you a sense of what things we need to do to support our immune system. First one is Big Restore. And Big Restore is something relatively new. I've been working on it for a couple of years. Finally pulled the trigger on it about 6 months ago, getting excellent results with it. It's simple. It's just 2 ingredients, but they're 2 of the most complex, nutritionally beneficial substances on the planet. One is Sheila G. Sheila G is a thick tar-like substance that is made deep in the earth over the course of tens of thousands of years, and every spring it oozes up between rocks in the high Himalayas and a few other high mountain ranges. And this has been literally utilized and written about for 5,000 years as a fountain of youth and a panacea. And it actually is. It contains every known nutrient in an ionic form because of the fulvic acids and the folvates that are there that complex it, which then help get it into the cells. It contains humates. Humates are basically from humus in the soil. And what they do is they help to repair the tight junctions. So everyone's heard of leaky gut. So when you have a leaky gut, then a lot of microbes and other things, foreign particles can get into your bloodstream that shouldn't get in. So it helps to repair the tight junctions and tighten that back up. And not just in your gut, it also works in the blood vessels. It works in the respiratory system, lungs, nasal passages, as well as the brain. So it strengthens the blood-brain barrier. So that's just one of the ingredients Sheila G does, all those things. It also contains soil-based organisms and a naturally occurring carbon-60. Carbon-60 is just an amazing substance. It was only discovered in '85. They got the Nobel Prize for it in 1996. In 2012, first toxicity study was done by the University of South Paris, and it blew everybody away because they completely failed at killing rats, which is what they do in toxicity studies. They try to kill rats and see what the toxic dose is. There was no toxic dose. It didn't kill them, didn't hurt them. In fact, they lived twice as long as any rats have lived. That led to hundreds of additional studies showing that it's a super antioxidant and a super detoxifier that works down at the subcellular level, all the way down to the DNA and inside the mitochondria. So that's what's just in that one product. Then you mentioned Remedy. Remedy is an excellent product that is used as a way to enhance or upgrade a person's hygiene. And we all know the importance of good hygiene and bathing and washing our hands and cleansing our faces and all that in terms of microbial load. Well, we also are constantly breathing in crap, toxins, microbes, and Remedy is something that can be used as a nasal lavage. You can use it in a nebulizer. You can use it in a humidifier to basically nourish and cleanse the nasal passages. And thereby that reduces the total microbial or pathogen burden on your immune system, which then allows for let's say the immunoglobulin proteins to kind of calm down, and albumin, which is the other main protein, to increase. And that's crucial for everything, including overall immune system efficiency, healing, repair, etc. So that's why that's a simple product, but it's got a lot of powerful benefits. Then you had mentioned liposomal vitamin C. So liposomal or lipo-C is basically vitamin C encapsulated in a liposome. And a liposome, think of it as a sphere of fat. It's actually phospholipids that encase it, and it's they're still very tiny, but what it does, it allows for it to be absorbed through the digestive tract without going through the complete breakdown process. So it will permeate, get into your bloodstream as effectively as an injection into your bloodstream, and beyond that, it also will get into the cells. So it's more effective than an injection, because an injection will put the nutrient into your bloodstream, but it still has to get into the cell, and our body uses different transport mechanisms to get into the cell. Well, with a liposome, you accomplish both of those things. And vitamin C, of course, as most of your listeners know, is one of the most vital nutrients that we can take in. It's actually more than a nutrient. You really should think of it as the missing stress resistance hormone. Most other species make their own vitamin C. Humans lost that capacity. As a result of losing that capacity, we need to take it in from our foods. And most people don't. And of course, most of our food has been devitalized and doesn't have the levels that it should have. So we know that supplemental vitamin C is important, and we know that there's a whole school of thought in nutrition that high doses are particularly effective for a number of different things. And so this is a way to get higher doses without the potential side effects of taking oral high doses of straight vitamin C, which can be, very loose stools, to put it mildly. Next, we have zinc. And this is zinc TNT, and the TNT stands for test and treat. We're all zinc deficient. Why? Well, because the soil's been depleted of zinc, as it is of most other nutrients, and we've known that for 100 years, and nothing's been done about it. So we still, and other than in organic farming and biodynamic gardening that does address that, but most people are consuming things that have not been raised that way, and therefore the soil is devitalized. And so what should be in everything, it's no longer there. So zinc TNT allows you to use it as a way to test to see if you're deficient, and just about everyone is, based upon how it tastes for you. And then you continue using it, hopefully to rebuild that. The caveat is that many people may never rebuild it completely because we use it on a daily basis. It's involved in 300 different enzymatic reactions and all kinds of things, including function of the immune system. So that's why zinc is in there. And of course, a lot of the protocols about immune support focus on zinc. The other thing that's in virtually everyone's immune support protocol is vitamin D3. So we have a vitamin D3 and K2 product because they kind of go together for a few different reasons. But the D3 is the main thing that's going to affect and impact the immune system. And we know now that virtually everyone is, most everyone's low in vitamin D for multiple reasons. One is that it's really not a vitamin, it's a hormone. And it's a hormone that we make in our skin with sun exposure. Most of us don't get out in the sun enough. Luckily, we're in Florida, so we get more sun. But we don't get out in the sun enough. And then what most people do is they will shower regularly. Well, the formation of vitamin D in the skin takes up to 72 hours. If you rinse off, it's no problem. But if you scrub with soap, you shut the whole process down. So that's one of the many reasons that people are, in general, are very deficient in vitamin D. And that's crucial for proper immune function. The last thing in the immune support kit, whether it be the regular size or the travel one, is Lugol's iodine. And I know that Rick has spoken about this a number of times. Jerry Tennant also is very on board with increasing our iodine intake. Just like with vitamin D and zinc, everyone is zinc deficient, even by government standards. And that's literally 100 times lower than what the Japanese get on a regular basis. And if you follow statistics around the world, you realize that the Japanese in general are much, much healthier than Americans in terms of longevity, chronic diseases, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, we're among the lowest in the world in terms of positive health indicators. We lead the world in disease indicators. And part of it is because we lead the world in food processing and a lot of the other, bad habits out there. We lead the world in fast food establishments, in trying to make everything quick and convenient, shopping for big amounts of food at one time that'll last for a long time. Well, those aren't real foods; those are all packaged foods. So that's a little bit of a rundown on what we offer to support the immune system. There are other things that are important, and of course, the foundation is a good diet, getting oxygen to your tissues, and good clean water.
And a little exercise. We had a caller calling in earlier.
And so everything that the doctor just mentioned Man, this morning I've had the big, which is for the brain, for the immune system, is for the gut. And he mentioned the fact about the Shilajit, humic and fulvic. Man, I'm very proud to say in 2011 we were the first one to bring in humic and fulvic, which is the gift. Liposomal vitamin C, Doc. It's interesting, and this is why I want the listeners out there to question. I've shared many times the possible cure for sepsis by Dr. Paul A. Merrick. Dr. Paul A. Merrick was a pulmonary a doctor at a ER in Norfolk, Virginia, and this is very important because sepsis has the same symptoms as the coronavirus. What happens is that you get the cold, the flu, and you go to the hospital, and you get in a serious case of sepsis. Sepsis is a serious case of the cold or the flu. And so what he did, he used a protocol that was came about in 1940s, but he used a protocol. This is in 2017, and the protocol was intravenous vitamin C, I think B1, and hydrocortisone. And over the last 4 years, he has been effectively helping tens of thousands. And the hospital there has incorporated this protocol for sepsis. Well, sepsis is the same as the coronavirus, the same symptoms. They have censored that information. And so my question to you, why did they censor that? Sepsis kills 1,000 people a day, 250,000 a year. And so if you were really concerned about saving people's lives, and here's a protocol that's a natural protocol, why wouldn't you? And so Dr. Paul A. Merrick, on his little interview, you go to YouTube and pull up Paul A. Merrick, and he talks about, nobody's going to make any money from this because it's just vitamins. And so what Dr. Max has is the liposomal vitamin C, which I have this morning, and I put it in my green goddess. My green goddess was cucumber, celery, kale, and parsley. And I put a tablespoon of the liposomal vitamin C, believed to be 8 to 10 times more effective than IV vitamin C. And Dr. Paul A. Merrick mentions the same thing that the doctor just said. There's 2 species on Earth that does not make vitamin C anymore, and that's humans and guinea pigs. And when you're under a lot of stress, you use up your vitamin C. So vitamin C is so very important. The humic and fulvic, the zinc, the vitamin D3 I've had this morning, Lugol's iodine. I had Dr. Jerry Tennant on my show 6 years ago, and I asked Doc, I said, Doc, if there was one supplement that you would recommend, what would it be? He says iodine. There's 22 organs that the body needs for iodine. And so again, the caller this morning called and was concerned about the chronic metabolic issues. And so what the doctor is saying and what I am saying is that, man, we need a strong foundation. And so what the doctor shared is the foundation to build. And then from there, you can specifically cue in on a illness that you can then more cue in on to address that particular chronic metabolic issue. But the key is to build a good foundation and to get rid of the processed food. The processed food. We have to eliminate the processed food. 937-457-1210. We have 3 or 4 more minutes if you'd like to call in. Doc, anything else that you would like to focus in on before we get to the bottom of the hour here? I mean, before we bring closer to this wonderful session this morning. Anything that you think that you...
About this briefly earlier, and then you and I spoke about it briefly yesterday. So to me, one of the most important things, aside from taking care of your own health, is to see what you can do or would like to do to take back control of your identity, to take back control of your rights and your freedom. And so one of the things that I'm working with on here is to help establish a common law assembly in our county and state. Many people around the country are working on similar processes. Until we reestablish common law assemblies and common law grand juries, we will never take control back of our government, which is supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. The problem is that many years ago, the people stopped assembling and stopped letting their voices and their desires be known, other than going to the ballot box every 2 to 4 years. That's not being involved in your government. That's just a token thing that they throw up there to make it look like you've got some influence. Look up common law assemblies, common law grand juries. They're two national organizations. One is the National Assembly .net, and the other one is American States Assembly. Searches on either one, you'll come up with them and find them. A lot of great information, and you can connect with people in your area that are working on this. It has to be done location or locale by locale, because that's the way people operate. You have to be able to assemble, arrive at certain resolutions, agree upon certain things, and then you can put the government officials who are supposed to be working for us on notice and make some changes. So that's the most important thing, besides taking care of your own health.
I know there's quite a few people here. If you want to email me or text me,
working on there. We have some very active people here in our community, and we must come together, regardless of race, regardless of political party. We must come together and take control of our civil liberties. Man, Doc, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. Dr. Max MacCloud, a DO, a naturopath doctor, PhD in nutrition, the founder of My Body Symphony. We are the only health food store in the state of Ohio that has My Body Symphony. You come to either location, and I'm telling you, it's whole food, it's real food. It goes down to the cellular level. And again, I just want to say, keep on keeping on. I want to say, stay positive, think positive, surround yourself with positive, principle-centered people. Look, listen, and read positive things. Talk to yourself in the positive, develop that plan, work that plan, believe, and it will happen. Thank you for joining us this morning.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. 11 million people and some big cities like